Yay! Hello,
Morning.
everybody.
Yay!
Afternoon?
Afternoon,
Hey,
Yeah.
the sun's out,
or
it's
whenever
morning.
you're watching this. Who knows?
Hello.
Um, this month we read Let's Pretend This Never Happened, and I'm gonna do introductions and have you guys share a brief thought on the book. Do a little differently. I think we normally just do introductions. This was Rosie's pick. So Rosie, what did you think of your pick?
Very funny, and I really enjoyed it. I went in knowing nothing about it. Like everybody, I've read the Beyonce story on Facebook about the giant chicken. I don't know that I'd pick this type of book again. It doesn't seem really conducive to a book club conversation, but not knowing what I was going into, not bad for a first pick. Definitely worth my time to read, whether for a book club or something else. And I'm looking forward to reading her second book because I really like the short chapters and the vignettes, and that you can pick it up and put it down, and they don't necessarily have to go contiguous. So that's my thought.
Amelia?
So I read this book on the audio version on the way back from Disneyland when at one time or another Belle and I were going to kill each other, and so we decided rather than kill each other we should put on an audiobook.
Yay!
And so I have weird memories of this book, but the thing that freaks me out the most about Jenny Lawson is how much she reminds me of Belle, who is my best friend in this world as well as my business partner and sometimes antagonist. And so every time I read anything Jenny Lawson writes, I just hear it in the voice of my friend. And everything about it, therefore, becomes utterly delightful. So I have this special place in my heart for Jenny Lawson because she reminds me so much of Belle. And just everything she talks about, her sense of humor, her pacing, her timing, it's all so much like my friend that it freaks me out. But I love it. It's hilarious. We probably laughed a lot more than we would have if we hadn't had it on, that's for sure. And it was a great audio read on the way home from Disneyland because she reads it herself, so her pacing and timing is all really perfect, and it's just an absolute delight. Definitely liked it.
Cool.
Harris?
Okay, so you got me just before I went in
I
for
know. That's why I was like, all right, I'm going to catch you
Okay.
before you throw
So,
the needle in your mouth.
I'd never heard of Jenny Lawson. I had no idea who she was. I was completely thrown off by the blurb from Amazon, which made this sound like it was going to be kind of like a difficult, childhood memoir. Talks about, her unstable father and stuff like this. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a downer. But no, she was actually, she does read the audiobook herself, and I think she's great. She's especially hilarious at 1.5 speed, which is what I listened to it on. She was great. But yeah, it's been forever since I read something like this, like one of these kind of memoirs-y things. I went through a David Sedaris phase, which I think a lot of a lot of people go through, but I hadn't read any of those in years. So this was kind of getting back into the whole memoir thing for me. But yeah, it was completely new. I actually liked it as a book club pick. It was different. So I thought this was a fun thing to read for a book club. Especially since we all kind of exist online, and a lot of this has to do with online stuff and existing in that space. So yeah, I thought it was very fun. And like I said, 1.5 speed audiobook was hilarious.
Ness?
So I had to take a break from the Hamilton bio to read this, and it's very different from that. And so the first several chapters, I was like, I had a horrible hangover from Hamilton.
Hamilton.
was like, okay, I need more of a pause in between these two books.
Mood whiplash.
Yes, it was like Hamilton and Jefferson are fighting, and then a chapter about her dad using a squirrel as a puppet.
Yep.
That was weird. I say I definitely some of the things that she wrote were so familiar and felt so true to my own experience that I was getting secondhand embarrassment listening to her read the book. And so sometimes I had to put it aside and go back to Hamilton for a little bit and then come back. But overall, I really liked it. It's funny and poignant and kind of heartbreaking, but overall delightful. I really enjoyed it. What about
It was
you?
a good heartbreak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is definitely a German word for secondhand embarrassment. I think it's something like Firmenschlagen.
Yeah.
I swear to God, that's a thing.
No, it is, and You're close. I'm not gonna Google it, but
I once actually made friends with a girl from Germany by hilariously mispronouncing every single word in her travel book. So, it's like, hey, nice to meet you. Hi, it's just, hi. It's like we were living at the same place for study abroad, and I was like, "Oh, is this your guide? Let me try and read this." Zweinen, and she just like laughed hard enough to almost send coffee out, and we got along pretty well.
That's good. So for me with this book, I had moments of like, oh my god, this is what Dave feels with being married. Because I don't have like the same mental health stuff necessarily, but like certain things she does, I'm like, oh god, I do this. I do this all the time. And I was like, no wonder he's like, just stop. And I'm like, but why? This is amazing. Why should I stop this? Not like specific, just like random little bits of her and her husband. I was like, oh no, that's me and Dave, like a million times over. But that also made it enjoyable. I thought I didn't know what I expected. I was only familiar with Jenny Lawson from her guesting on Vaginal Fantasy 1 month, and that was about all my exposure to her. And you know, people on my Goodreads here and there reading this, and it was. I think I had the most scattered reviews I've ever had on a book in my Goodreads friend group on this. It was either people who loved it or hated it. So I was worried, but I think I enjoyed it more than disliked it.
I'm curious, how many of us have read her blog before? 'Cause I read her blog.
I have.
I haven't. No.
And I follow her on Twitter.
Yeah,
I just started
follow
following her on
Twitter
Twitter, and I'm probably going to read her blog now.
I've not. I'm probably gonna go look for her blog at the very least.
Yeah.
Or maybe
same.
follow Twitter. Twitter feels less committal.
Her voice is just so distinctively comforting to me. But I really like the way she writes.
Her style is so fantastic, and I found myself, as I was reading it, well, Amelia, you know how my husband and I sort of spar back and forth, and I found myself using her rhythm and her style the last few days as I've been reading the book, and we've been laughing an awful lot more, and I probably won't hang on to it because it's not me, but I'm a little bit of a chameleon anyway, so it's been super fun to just fall into it for a few days.
Yeah, it feels very authentic, you know, like when she writes it just feels like she's just writing off the cuff, and I know she's probably not. She's probably put a lot of work and effort into it, but it feels like you're just sitting down and having coffee with her.
Yeah, it does. I guess that's a good question that I put down here. A couple of us listened to the audiobook, or have previously listened to it, if not this time as well. Did anybody else get the, like, oh my god, this is just a giant podcast? Like, just one person talking the whole time?
A little bit.
I definitely walked away from it going, like, I feel like I just listened to a 12-hour-long podcast.
So it felt like it was double the length of the actual audiobook? Is that what you're saying? It dragged?
No. It just felt, I don't know, like, every time I picked it up, it just was like, okay, cool, another podcast episode.
Yeah.
I feel like I was sitting down to listen to a book.
To me, it felt more like she was reading her blog.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like there. It felt like reading a blog post, which I think it kind of is. Like, these are elaborations on some of her blog posts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't really have a narrative thread exactly. It's more like it is like little vignettes. But you know what? It's been done before.
I will say the one thing that kind of annoyed me was the singing of the chapter titles.
That annoyed the crap out of me.
Okay.
I kept finding it amusing.
So
I mean,
glad
it was, but then I was just like, oh my god, stop. Please.
I just listened to
then
her.
I'm the person who makes a song about everything.
Yeah. In her new book, she doesn't do that, so I was not expecting it at all.
And I'll like
But it
the
was
other
really
one
obnoxious.
more, probably.
Yeah.
Just for that. Because, yeah, it like, I make up songs while I play video games,
Yeah.
but it's not like that. So
It's like
I feel like it's
killing
okay.
guys doing the thing. Yeah. That kind of
And
like.
flowers!
Yeah.
Those are my
Can people
videos.
not make up songs? Because
I mean, I make up songs all the time, but I don't record them and force other people to
True,
listen
I
to them.
don't record them.
Yeah,
I just
but
listen to
I
my
don't
pet.
know.
husband doesn't.
I
My
think there are
husband
people
doesn't
who don't make up
songs, and I
songs while
think
they
it's
game.
weird.
They're missing out.
No,
on
if
it,
you're one of
though.
those weirdos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Gosh,
Missing
it must
out.
be boring.
Like, that's something I don't even like singing, but like kind of saying words in a rhythmic sense is actually pretty fun. When especially it's like, now I'm gonna punch a guy in the face. What did I play a melee?
Exactly.
Why did you play Melee, dude? That's weird.
No, I've been banned from playing Melee and most things, but
I know.
it's like the follow-up song to that one is Dead Again.
That's my favorite.
This is why when we play Mario Kart Double Dash, I get to punch people and she gets to drive.
Your only function, like, which way's the beach nest? It's
Punch that way. That's great.
I fucking love that you have a follow-up song.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's
It's her sophomore effort.
Yeah, it's my sophomore effort.
Right.
It's one that gets a lot of play.
Yeah. Just sort of on
Do
loop.
that one a lot.
Wow, I rarely re-sing my songs because they're usually like to my dog, you know, about does he need breakfast or does he need to go outside? I don't remember.
My
from
dog has a
minute
theme
to
song.
minute.
I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. He gets that song sung to him constantly.
I just never remember the words that I used the last time. I tend to go for like the same 3 or 4 tunes, but sort of just stick words that whatever.
Oh, I just changed Hamilton lyrics to include my dog's name in them.
Oh, I just called him
Brilliant.
Hamilton and everything and then burst out giggling so Dave gets the reference or anyone else around me.
Yeah, that.
Because they know as soon as I start laughing, I'm referencing Hamilton.
Yeah,
My
anytime
husband
somebody
said-
says meanwhile, you're gonna get the next part.
Right?
It's gonna
My husband said he wanted to start a support group for Hamilton victims.
My husband would join.
My husband would probably join.
My husband would also join.
If I want to tweet that link, that's
plotting and stuff.
Eris would definitely join.
Right?
They'll all be plotting against
look.
us.
Sometimes you just need a safe space. Okay.
Right. Listen,
I
just
think
look at
I'm
Tim.
super
He'll be like,
lucky.
dude, I got you.
Oh God. All right.
I got
Alright,
super
so-
lucky
You have to
because
live with
Max
this.
likes Hamilton.
I know. I mean, I'm not saying who I'm giving my card, my professional services to, at the end of it, but you know.
We're sure that one of us is gonna need it at some point. It's gonna be because of Hamilton.
Yeah. Hey, do you do murders? Just say it. Not like do them, but like do you take the last bit?
Oh, God.
So we were
She's
reading
not
a book,
wrong.
right? We were reading a book, weren't we?
All right, no more Hamilton. We got it out of us.
No, we didn't.
Ness, we have to try, Ness. We have to try. I think we almost murdered Tony on the podcast.
He's still mad about it. It's fine.
That's amazing.
Still mad about it.
So this book for me brought back, like, I was a weird kid. Shocker. I'm sure we all probably were weird kids, I think. Probably a little bit in high school. I don't know.
Does boring count as weird? Because I was that.
I mean, our friends were weird, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
in a
I
band
think
kind of
we're
weird for
doing
lunch.
it.
We're weird.
That's true.
So for me, like, see, okay, I was the punk rock kid, but like I didn't listen to the new punk rock. I only listened to like original punk rock bands pretty much, and then like more of the heavier punk stuff that was out then, like the Casualties and that. So, and I mean, I don't exactly look the part, nor can I if I try. Like it just doesn't happen. So, like, it was always just this weird thing. I don't know. I was just kind of weird. I floated, like, I had friends that were, like, jocks. Like, I had all these weird little friend groups of people that were all different things that was not what I was. So, I don't know. I always felt like the weird kid, and she just gave me flashbacks of, like, sitting by myself because I was like, I don't know who the fuck to go sit with. I don't know who the fuck to talk to. Like, what am I supposed to do with myself when I do not abide to any of these people's
It was kind of a good, like, memoirs of the weird kid.
Mm-hmm.
Although I will say, you know, it seemed like a very, like, country weird, because that's the thing, a lot of her, like, country references, like, yeah, we had an ag barn at school. What the hell is agricultural? Like, a lot of the stuff was, even though it wasn't relatable in any way, shape, or form, I was still like,
You didn't impregnate a cow?
no,
Right, you didn't have your hand stuck up a cow's vagina in high school?
no, we have cows around the corner, but I'm pretty sure they're only there for tax purposes. Like, I'm pretty sure it's just somebody's, like, tax shelter farm. Like, so yeah, it was pretty fun, and again, with the taxidermist father, I was like,
What an odd upbringing.
that
So-
was so straight. He seemed like a sweetheart, but
He meant well, I'm sure.
I have a really great story about cows and fathers.
oh,
Uh-oh.
okay, I've got to hear this.
That go sort of in line with weird upbringings. My dad is now a retired eye surgeon, but when we were in like third and fourth grade and we were doing biology functions and learning about stuff, I did not grow up in an agricultural area specifically, but there were some cattle farms nearby where I lived in the central coast of California, Santa Barbara area and a little bit north. And my dad had a rancher down the road who he and all 6 of his children and his wife all wore glasses, and they didn't have any insurance because this was like the 70s, and it wasn't as prevalent for people to have private insurance. So he would barter with my dad, and he would trade him. My dad went and bought a giant freezer, and he would trade him 8 eye exams and glasses for a side of beef, which would last us damn near all year long, because it's a huge amount of meat. But when we hit those middle years in elementary school, he would volunteer to come into our classroom and dissect cow's eyes for us, because a cow's eye structure is very similar to a human eye structure. And it only got icky when my mom, who was raised in the Depression, would save everything, including Cool Whip containers. Those were our Tupperwares. So you had to be really cautious going into our freezer and opening a Tupperware.
No.
Because you were never sure if you were going to get like meatballs or eyeballs.
Just a little piece of tape on top.
Right? That's what Sharpies were invented for.
Oh my god.
I sort of
Amazing,
related
though.
to that whole taxidermy thing in that
Oh god. Pork.
manner, but not in the other way.
Oh
Yeah, I
god.
relate to that. Like,
Yeah,
I think out of everyone, I relate the most to the taxidermy stuff because my whole family hunts.
Yeah.
And, like, we have taxidermy. And, like, I don't know, it doesn't bother me. Like, but I also know from experience how weird people that do taxidermy are.
Right?
Weird.
The whole thing
But, like,
totally
also, like,
baffles me.
it's one or the other. I'll be honest with you, like, in experiences I've had, either people who practice taxidermy are super normal and fine and functioning, or they're just like, what the fuck? Like, no thank you. I don't want to talk to you. I'm just going to drop this off. You take care of it. This is what I want. Bye. Call me when it's done. And,
Like, Dead Skunk is a hilarious child's puppet. Weird.
Yeah.
That's creepy.
Oh my god.
That was creepy.
But I really do feel like
Puppet. I can see why he would think that would be like a fun magical experience if you separate yourself from the fact that it is a dead animal. Like, this is just a fun thing that I did. Look at this fun thing I did.
Look at all the blood on my arm. Like,
The kids like Chip and Dale.
See, like, that's stuff that I don't get at all. I'm like, what?
there were pieces of her relationship with her parents that reminded me very much of Jeanette Wall's book, The Glass Castle. I don't know if any of you have read that. They were just desperately poor, and she works for the New York Times now as a writer or an editor, I don't remember. But she and her sister ended up growing up to be successful, but certainly not by any help of their parents. And their parents now are homeless by choice. And there was one point where her mother found a diamond ring on their property that easily would have been a few $1,000s and would have fed them for a number of weeks. And when I say that they were poor, I mean like they would get a piece of ham and they didn't have a refrigerator for it, so they would keep it in a cupboard, and then they would cut away the maggoty parts to eat what was left. Yeah, I mean,
That's
really,
horrifying.
really poor.
God.
And so her autobiography, Glass Castle, is really poignant and sad. And there are pieces of Lawson's book that almost felt like they could have gotten that sad when she talks about wearing bread
bags.
shoes and
Honestly, that's what.
and that she struggled with mental illness until I read this book, and I really, there's a part of me that frequently, I wonder about parents who raise children in environments like that. Is love enough? You know, is it enough to overcome And in her case, obviously it is, because she's clearly a very happy life. She's a successful woman with a happy life and a great marriage and a cute kid, and whatever we defined success by. I don't know. It made me think a lot. That was a little deeper than I intended to go. Sorry.
Well,
No, I
honestly,
think
the Amazon explanation made it sound almost like like that Glass Castle sort of thing, like her unstable father and deeply poor upbringing. I was like, ooh. But no, and then it's her reaction to it, I think. I'm sorry, Izzy, go.
Yeah.
no, you're fine. I was to say I was I mean, I was not brought up super poor, obviously, or that, so I had no experience. I mean, I had experience with friends who were, but never that bad. Do you know what I mean? Like reading or listening or whatever to someone talk about those sort of things, and you don't think about it. I mean, I have, because I've lived in places where like you drive up the road and you go in the mountains, and we lived in Appalachia for a little while, and you would see these things. So like in those ways, I thought about it, but hearing someone talk about it in that way was almost more eye-opening, I think, than could be expected. I don't know. Like I was impressed at how well she dealt with it, and then also great to see how much she's come from it as far as mental illness and just everything in general, and talking about it. But yeah, it makes you sad. Like there's no way around it.
Yeah.
Like you just want to go save everybody.
That like
Yeah.
there is a situation where somebody would have to deal with that.
Yeah, like it's depressing. It's like can be, but at least she cuts it with some ridiculous shit.
Well, and great humor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't get the impression she had a happy-go-lucky childhood, but you don't get the impression that like she's permanently damaged and everything is terrible. You know what I mean? Like,
which I think was good though, like because I feel like a lot of times you get the like automatic association of a not great childhood equating to this like permanent damage the rest of your life.
Well, and I don't think she thought her childhood wasn't great. She and her sister still go back to their folks' home in Wall and enjoy being there and bringing their kids there.
Which I think it's been in Wall, Texas, by the way.
Really.
I have to, let me look that up real quick. But yeah, I think I have. Like, I recognize the town name, and we go to Texas to visit my brother, so like we've driven all over.
Like, honestly, I think it's great that she manages to come across with a lot of affection for that time. And I think affection might actually be the word that I've been looking for. Like, she looks back on it. It was, but she has loving feelings for it.
Yeah.
right. It wasn't like
Which I think matters.
the worst thing that ever happened. There were just some sucky elements.
So as we're talking about this, I definitely think maybe what parts of, like, obviously I think we all probably struggled with her childhood stuff a little bit.
Yeah.
And just reacting to that and it being, like, as bad as it was. What other parts of the book did you struggle with?
Her anxiety, for sure.
The anxiety?
Oh yeah.
Definitely. I see a lot of my teenage daughter in her when she was talking about her younger years and her anxiety, and a lot of feelings about that.
Yeah. Honestly, I was almost to the point where like the anxiety stuff just felt almost like, well, yeah, that's just how it is, right?
That's how life is. Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're not supposed to. Oh, so. But yeah, I think she was very honest with all that. That wasn't like my biggest challenging part because that just felt so like, well, of course. Like for me, like hearing about the miscarriages was sort of my thing because that happened a lot in my family. So yeah, and it was fairly like within the last like 10 years, I've seen that go around a lot with like people that I care about. So it was like,
Wow, I completely blocked that. I have antiphospholipid syndrome. And my 15-year-old daughter, my one child, was my 10th pregnancy. So I read that chapter and just went whoop right out of my brain.
Yeah, sorry.
Moving on.
I've said my piece, but yeah, I think she was very good at explaining anxiety and the feelings that come with it. Because it's kind of hard to get into words, you know? Even if you feel like that's just normal. Like
It is, especially as someone who doesn't have anxiety. It's hard to explain what it feels like because people imagine it like, well, you just worry too much or you're just afraid all the time.
Like
and it's
she related, like I don't have like diagnosed anxiety, and I mean I'll get anxious about stuff more so than I probably should sometimes, but it's not bad enough to like need that sort of help yet. But like she definitely hit it in a point where I was like, oh hey, that's what I have sometimes. Like I know exactly what she means right now.
Yeah.
And I could just see someone who's like just like whatever all the time being like, "Oh, this makes sense." I had a hard time with the dog.
Oh, yeah.
That
Yeah.
But it was great that she gave, like, kind of an explanation. You know, she kind of telegraphed that. She was like, hey, just heads up, this is not going to end well. I'm like, I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I had a feeling it wasn't going to.
I mean,
The more and more it went, but I was just like, oh, man.
something about pugs. It's just like, everything is sadder if it's a bad thing that happens to a, like, they're just
Smirky-faced ridiculousness.
scrunchy-faced little love nuggets, and they're just
Yeah.
like, oh, no. Oh,
Yeah, that
baby.
part was hard. The miscarriages just made me uncomfortable, but pregnancy stuff makes me super uncomfortable, so...
No, I remember my friends going through that, and my family going through that, and
Yeah.
that just being, oh, God.
It's awful.
Not
I just, yeah.
Yucky.
Not with the attendant medical condition as well, but sometimes it just happens.
Mm-hmm.
There's no larger medical reason. It's just the dice landed on one. And,
If there's a medical non-viability, your body will spontaneously abort.
yeah.
Boom.
It's-
And that's what I was told for years and years and years and years. And then finally somebody said, you know, there's this new condition that's been identified recently, and you may have it. And at that point, 16 years ago, the number one way to identify this autoimmune disease was repeated miscarriage.
Ooh.
And it was kind of shitty. And so what they do is they did exactly like the pictures in the book. Oh, you guys who read the audiobook didn't see the pictures. She put pictures throughout the chapters, and there was a picture of her with a great big pregnant belly covered in bruises, and that was totally my life for 9 months. Because the heparin, Lovenox blood thinner, it first of all, it stings like a bitch.
It's the worst.
Twice a day, and it leaves massive bruises, even if you get in the right spot. So, yeah, I don't remember where I was going with that. Blech. Anyway, I'm glad
I
they
remember you
figured
talking
it
about
out.
this on, I don't remember what episode it was of the Can't Talk podcast, but it was really interesting actually to hear about. And people should go listen to that episode actually if they're curious about your experience with that, I think. It's kind of eye-opening for me about just like I said, I have a massive anxiety and fear of pregnancy. So yeah, like
Oh, that didn't help.
terrifies
Sorry.
me.
Yeah.
So, no, you're fine. You're fine. I just like I peace out. Like I can't. Nope.
Good to know before you take steps that could be hard to undo.
And yet,
And it could
we're
happen
all-
one day, but no, right now I still have massive anxiety over any of it. So yeah, I'm good.
thing is, we're all talking about like this really hard shit she was discussing in the books, and we're still like, yeah, it's a funny book.
Yeah.
It's funny. She
I
likes
think
it.
that's what she wants though. Like
Yeah, I know.
he
I think that's a sign of being a good
well
author.
written to do that, to like make us talk about something that's difficult or things like I sat through. You know, I had no problem with the miscarriage stuff and pregnancy stuff because I don't know, the way she dealt with it, it was fine. But generally, I'm like, no, I don't want to see your weird 3D ultrasound, and I don't want to see like. I don't want to touch your belly. I'm good. Like,
Oh no.
Well, 3D
I'm good.
ultrasounds
Hated it
are.
when people did that to me. I was like, don't touch me. What are you doing? Ugh.
To be fair, though, the 3D ultrasounds are weird and always make
No,
you
they're
look
creepy.
They make it look
No.
like everyone's baby is Gonzo from the Muppets.
well, no,
Something
okay,
like
I have
Or an
like
alien.
They're terrible.
2 friends who have done them, and the baby looked cute, and I was like,
Really?
okay, yes. I've seen like 1 or 2 that the baby looked kind of cute, then babyish, but usually I'm like, no, that's just
They're like alien
terrifying.
fetuses.
Yeah, no, it looks like something you would see in a jar on the X-Files.
Yeah.
Oh, like
My friend,
all of them-
friend put one on a cake. She screen printed it
Oh,
onto a
Oh,
cake.
hell no.
no!
No. That's got
That was a fun baby shower.
Oh,
Like,
Then you're
we're
cutting
going
into
I
the
think
baby. Why
If
would
I
you
had
do
a baby,
that?
like if I had a baby shower, I would have a cake with an alien bursting out of the stomach.
Yeah,
That's
no, I was
not
gonna
real.
say, unless you're
Let's
leaning
be real.
into it.
Yeah.
Just to make the
gross.
statement of like, why the fuck did I do this?
I 100%. I really like someday if any of my very close friends get pregnant, I would love to throw them a happy intentional parasite infestation.
Yes,
Yeah,
I like
fine.
this.
Happy
Definitely.
parasite.
You can do that for me if I ever have children.
Woo!
You are on the job.
Yay!
Because that is how
They're
I
gonna
feel
be-
about pregnancy.
And it'll be written in little swirly script with like hearts and stuff around it.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Okay. What chapter made you laugh the most?
The HR chapter.
HR.
I almost died from laughing.
I
Almost drove off
agree.
the road.
I agree.
God,
The
God,
HR
I can't
chapter. I was working on Etsy store stuff and trying not to like mangle paper in my silhouette.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I was like loading it and I'm like giggling and I'm like, I gotta stop. I'm giggling.
But is that
This
your
is so
penis? Jesus Christ.
Okay, the is this penis chapter on 1.5 speed. Is this your penis? Is it your penis? Like just constantly being asked that by. It's even better. Just all in chipmunk voice.
And then
It
I
was
never thought about
fabulous.
like. I mean, I have friends who do HR, and I just never thought about that being such a thing. And I was like, I guess it is. I also loved like. I don't know if she's religious, really.
She said a few times that she wasn't, but
Kind of. Okay, did she? I was like, well, because she kept talking about the Christian company at that point, and I could not remember if she'd really said like her full-blown stance on it.
She said it was weird that she was working for. a
Okay,
Christian
that's
company.
right. That's right. Okay, I listened to this in 2 days, like a
Yeah.
week ago. So it's like half there still. I'll say
I think
that
it
now.
was weird that it was a conservative Christian company.
I thought it was
you know.
hilarious that it was a conservative Christian company, and she kept having to ask people if it was their penis.
I mean,
I
Asses
mean, not that
everywhere.
that means anything, really. Technically, we all know that,
But
but
it's,
still,
it's the like.
it's something you would. It's like the least expected place
Yeah.
to be like, "Is this your penis? Is this
And
both
then-
of your penises?"
Right?
And then the guy was like,
No,
only
man,
one.
that one on the left.
That one over there is. Yeah.
Very specific.
I don't know who the one on the right is. Why were your penises in the photo together?
The other story that almost killed me was the giant labia one. The woman
Oh
who
my
was on
God.
top and the giant size on underneath. I had to rip out so many stitches because I was crying and laughing.
Oh no.
It was amazing. It was so funny.
Seriously.
Oh God.
I can't
Okay.
remember what the chapter was that I liked the best. It was somewhere near the end though, and I can't even remember what it was about, except that I remember it was the only one where I kept stopping and reading it out loud to my husband so we could laugh together. I'm terrible at this.
The weird taxidermy one was pretty funny too.
Yeah.
With the Shakespeare mouse.
The Shakespeare mouse and the boar that was picturing. Since we didn't have pictures on the audiobook, all I could do was just imagine this boar.
I
Yeah.
just think
Even
out
better.
the crocodile or whatever that she got.
Jean-Louis.
There's a
Jean-Louis?
picture of crocodile and of the Shakespeare mouse in the actual book.
I think the Shakespeare mouse looks like he's the cover of the book.
Yeah, it's on the
Mhm.
cover.
Oh yeah, I bet he is.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
got to see that.
See, that I get. I get Shakespeare mouse over, like, regular animal taxidermy.
Right? Yeah. Because
Whimsical taxidermy more sensical to me
See, though,
than
like my
regular.
favorite
Funny.
activity at the holidays is to put lights and hats on all my dad's taxidermy. That pisses me off.
But that
See,
makes
this
them
makes sense to me.
whimsical. That makes
Yeah.
them whimsical.
And not like creepy dead animals staring at you from the walls.
Most of
See, though, I grew up with, and I'm just like, it doesn't even faze me. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's just what you're used to.
I mean, it's totally what I'm, and I've also lived in the South a long time, and,
Mm.
you know, Nest
Yeah.
knows in the South hunting's a big thing.
It is. I actually experienced more people with taxidermy on the walls in New Jersey because my best friend in middle school was very poor, and her dad would go out hunting and have all kinds. Like we'd pull into the driveway all the time, and there would constantly be deer strung up in the front yard, like draining of blood.
oh,
Yeah,
I
I went
think
to.
Today you're a vegan. Coincidence?
Yeah, right.
I went to
Shocking. No.
undergrad in central Pennsylvania.
Dad was
where-
never a hunter.
Oh.
Yeah, my dad was never a hunter, but when I was about 3, we had a next door neighbor who was. We were living in Louisiana, and my dad was joking at him, and he was like, "Dude," he came home with a deer strapped to his front of his car, and he was like, "Dude, you killed Bambi," and they were joking and laughing, and he didn't know that that guy's 6-year-old kid was in the garage.
Oh.
It was just, and it was like, God, dude, don't joke about anything ever, Dad. 'Cause-
I
Yeah.
went to school in central Pennsylvania where they still get the first day of hunting season off. From school.
Really?
Like, school is not in session on the first day of hunting season. Deer
That's
hunting
a,
season
that's a thing
specifically.
a lot of places. That was the thing in
Interesting.
Michigan.
In central PA, it's a big deal.
Same
And
in Michigan.
I
That's where I live.
remember my father came, it was my freshman year, my father, who was like he was unemployed. He was unemployed at the time, so he drove out to come get me because we didn't have cars for spring break. And he was like, I am goddamn starving. Is there any place to eat in this tiny ass little town? Like, yeah, there's a Burger King right over there. So we park at the Burger King, and then before we can even open the door, this white pickup truck with like a shell built over the back out of pure plywood pulls in, but they also have a deer strapped to the front hood.
See,
So
like,
my dad
that,
looks out the window, looks right into the deer's eyes, and goes, "Nope, not that hungry."
see, people
We can
that,
wait.
like, strap the animal to the front of the car shit, like,
That's
not
not
good
safe.
hunters. Like, not good hunters. Like, most of the hunters I know, like, it's in the back of the truck. You don't even
That's also
fucking see it.
poor road safety.
Yeah, that
That's
too.
poor
And it's
road
just
safety.
like, you also like don't take the whole animal and strap it. Like you're supposed to gut it in the field and leave the intestines and stuff there, and then usually you quarter it and then put it in your vehicle. Sorry, guys.
I mean,
Come see me when the world
No,
is.
it's fine.
Back.
No, this is like, okay, it's a different culture. I can understand that, but also I think these guys were more like, oh, good. Hey, tell Mama we're gonna have stew
Yeah.
tonight with real meat. Like, I think that was part of the.
Oh, totally. I'm sure. I'm just
But,
saying,
like-
like I always hate like
Like,
the bad hunter thing. Like it's so
Yeah.
awful because most people that I know that hunt are not that way. But then you
Yeah.
have some that are just so, and you're like, what are you doing? You're just making it harder on everyone else.
but it was funny to just see my
No,
father
it
like
is.
turn his head. He's from New York, so
Oh yeah,
the
he's
first
like, peace
yeah.
out.
he's from Brooklyn, moved to the
And
suburbs
we're
where
done.
we live in like Disney princess nature, where like you sometimes see deer and some foxes in the backyard, but they're all your friends and they live happily in the woodlands. And then there's just this deer like staring him in the eye, like, "What's up? Nice car you got there. It'd be a shame if I got blood all over it if you opened the door a little too far and bonked it into me. All right, yeah, we're leaving."
That is funny.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so you know what? I think maybe we all had a little more to relate with on this book than I think we all guessed, because we all
Probably.
had weird ass like dead animal stories.
More than we anticipated.
The only
Yeah.
deer I ever killed was with my car. That was fun.
Oh, I've still
My dad
never
called
killed
all
a
his
deer.
friends
That's
to let him know I killed a deer.
Oh,
She finally bagged one.
that's okay.
Jokingly, like
Not
he's
the
like, guess what? Guess what your
That's all right.
sister did?
Once upon a time in high school, when we were driving back from one of the local shopping malls, I had Ness in the passenger seat, and I tried desperately to avoid running over a chipmunk. Didn't. Felt the thud under my wheel, immediately burst into tears, and she burst into laughter.
Nice.
And thus, you have encapsulated our
Our
personality.
entire
Sounds
friendship.
about right. Yep.
Yeah.
I immediately burst into like, I killed it! I tried so hard not to kill it! And you're, yeah! more to the tune of, like, this is really your reaction? Like, really?
Right.
Okay, what made you guys, I guess we kind of already discussed what made us
yeah.
cry or have the feelings, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, I guess let's do, we'll save your question, I think, Ness, for last, that top one. So, Eris, you said internet buddies.
Yeah!
You want to know how, wait, hold on, let me actually read the question.
Well, here, I can phrase it
Go
out,
for it.
because I probably phrased it a little weird on the question. So, okay, there was that whole
I'm sorry.
chapter.
You guys cut out. Can you repeat the question?
She's reading it
seen
out.
it
She
too.
hasn't read it yet.
Yeah. Okay, so I wrote it out really, like, weirdly, but okay, so my big question is, like, okay, the chapter where she goes off to, like, some bloggers summit
Mhm.
out in things, how do you make friends on the internet? Because I literally got, like, Vanessa wrote me into this, and now I know you guys, but I have no idea. Like, have you guys ever, like, been to one of these blogging
I have.
things? Is this, like, a real thing? Yeah,
I've done it twice.
what,
It is
how?
a thing. I've never been to
Blogging.
one.
I started blogging when my daughter was about 3, and I connected with a group of people. We just connected, and none of us are famous, and none of us have written books. Actually, that's not true.
Oh,
Cut out.
Cut
One
out.
woman has written a book. I don't know what it's about, but it's not about her blog. But yeah, the first time we got together, it was just a group of friends, and we picked Kansas City because it was central. We were all Americans, and we met for a 4-day weekend in Kansas City, and it was such a blast. We had a great time.
Aw,
And then 2 years later, we met in San Francisco.
that's so fun. That sounds
Yeah.
really nice.
And I am still in touch with almost every single one of those people. They are some of my oldest friends and dearest friends now, and they've watched my daughter grow up. And I have no idea, but I was born an extrovert, and that never goes away.
You do have a skill.
So my mom always says I've never met a stranger. So I really don't have a problem reaching out and making friends. The problem is the fear of I'm going to a strange place to meet a bunch of people, and I hope they don't kill me.
Yeah,
See,
there's
I
always
like,
that.
you know.
That feels
Let's see, what was that? March, I met Tony, who I podcast with for the first time ever. at
That's so
C2E2,
crazy. I
and
didn't
we
realize
all-
you guys had never met before.
And
person.
we all, like, me, him, and Dave all Airbnb'd together at a place and went to the convention together and hung out the whole weekend. It was great. It was just, like, online. Like, I mean, we've been talking for, like, 3 years or whatever,
Right.
so big change, you know. And then I've got some friends locally I met through the planner groups I'm in. And we meet up
Interesting.
every month and hang out and just talk about whatever and talk about planner stuff. But, like, you know, like, some of those have devolved into, like,
Oh my gosh.
real life friendships, but they started online.
That is so. That is. I mean, that is like a good kind of wacky to me.
Yeah. The biggest thing.
I have to go. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I won't tell my story about meeting friends online. No.
Okay.
Bye. Have fun.
Bye. Or something. Bye. Have fun wherever you're going. Bye.
But the big thing is, like, I think you just have to, like, find groups and people that you just talk to all the time, and then it just kind of turns into friendship.
Yeah.
See,
It
I think
just happens.
Huh.
Like, I don't know. It just takes time.
Like, I didn't know Izzy, but I forget. I must have followed you on Twitter or something because I wound up in this book club
Mm-hmm.
when you
We
it
met.
was your
We
idea.
met through book club from Mel, who
Oh,
I
it was
knew.
through Mel. That's what it was.
Who
Do I know
met.
Mel?
Mel from Can't Talk, Melissa.
Yeah. Not too
Oh.
on Can't Talk Some.
Mhm.
And that was from. I knew her from my IGN when
Mhm.
we all used to be active on there,
Mhm.
and then that kind of devolved into Twitter, which also how I met Tony and all these other people I've become friends with. And then now it's like I'm meeting all these people through Amelia and Ness because I can't talk. Yeah, which is awesome.
It's just our growing empire.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, I love it.
Seriously.
It is. It's good.
But yeah,
It's a
it's
total
just,
empire.
it's kind of a thing of, like, I'm super, like, I can be really, really shy, but extroverted on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like the
It's
best
safe.
definition of an ambivert, I guess, really. Technically, like,
I
I'm
love that
both.
word.
But, like, my friend Trin actually taught me that, was, like, she's an ambivert. Like, we have times where we can be super outgoing and great, but then we have to go back
Yeah.
and just be by ourselves and peaceful.
Because I will say,
And-
oh,
yeah,
sorry,
I
go
do
ahead.
that a lot of back and forth.
Because I will say that in the time that I've been podcasting with Ness, like, it would never have even occurred to me to try to do something like that if she hadn't been like, hey, try this thing. Okay, I'm pretty easily led in that respect. But at the same time, I enjoy, like, the kind of like, three-person conversation sort of thing. Like, somebody shows up, I get to talk to them, they are generally rad, and I have fun. But, like, going out and finding a community is still, like, this kind of weird alien thing, because I sort of, like, conditioned myself to not even go looking for that sort of thing because of internet drama in the early days of the wild, wild internet. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's friends of friends.
confusing.
Like, my
Yeah.
friends vet my friends on the internet
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
I met Ness and Mel through Belle, and I know that she probably met everybody through BioWare fandom.
Mm.
And then it just sort of branches
Mhm.
where you start to collect people that, and you're like, oh, that person's cool, I'll follow them, and then you kind of independently develop a relationship. It's really not different from real life. It's just more text-based.
Yeah.
You can proofread.
But I don't feel like it's
Totally.
interesting because, like, at this point, I don't feel like if I met any of you in person, it'd really be any different than when we do this. It'd just be like
No, I don't think so.
a bunch of stupid shit. Like, when Tony and I met, it was like the same shit as online.
Yeah.
Just able to actually, like, poke each other in the ribs
Yeah,
instead of
just able to
metaphorically
actually
poke each other
be
in the
extra
ribs.
annoying.
Right.
And then he just got to witness me and Dave be our weirdo selves.
That's awesome.
Because we're weird, but
Did anybody read? I'm taking over your job, Izzy. I'm sorry.
yeah, go for it. No, go for it. I was about to transition there.
It was like it's my I'm the host person on Can't Talk, so sometimes I forget it's not my job. I was just gonna say, did anybody else read Furiously Happy? Because I haven't read it yet.
Not yet, no.
I haven't either.
It's her second one, and it's delightful.
I've seen it around. Like
I have
Amazon's
too.
recommended it to me a couple of times, so I think
Yeah.
I might do that. And I might listen to the audiobook because honestly, I think she's a very good audiobook
Yeah,
reader
Totally.
of audiobooks.
I bought it and then took it to a very more serious place on accident, where I knew I took it to a hospital, I'll put it that way, and I knew I was going to be sitting for a really long time with everybody around me like worried and upset. So I was like, I'll take a book, it'll keep me company, and then it made me laugh awkwardly and inappropriately.
Whoops.
Like, this is not a time to be cracking up, so I haven't gone back to it yet because I was like, I can't read this right now. This is not appropriate. So I will return to it, but I don't know.
Yeah,
how
I
to
can
make
see
it.
that.
And now
not
the
being
cover
the
makes
best.
sense.
No, it was bad. It was super awkward. Do not recommend taking it to funerals
that's-
or
yeah.
anything serious.
I've almost done that too though, because like when my grandpa's been in the hospital, I've gone with my mom, like taking a book, and I'm like, I gotta be careful what book I take.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly.
The last thing I'm gonna be
I
doing is
think
like
it through
silently
until I was
chuckling.
reading it. And I was
Let me
like,
sit here and chuckle in the waiting room for the heart failure.
Exactly. That's exactly
Super
what it was.
appropriate.
And everybody else is super sad. I'm like, okay, this isn't good. I gotta change my game here. So like, I need to read something
It's
that
like
I'm not gonna laugh at.
Insufficiently grim.
Yeah, exactly.
No, honestly, and I've always thought like, oh, the cover's cute. I wonder how they managed to make that raccoon do that. Oh, now I know it's taxidermy.
Taxidermy.
It's a really excited, like a really
dead
hyped raccoon.
That's a dead raccoon.
That's a dead raccoon. I thought it was like a
Yeah,
CG
at least
raccoon.
it's not a puppet.
Amelia, why don't you wrap us up and tell us about our pick for next month?
Okay, I will. So it sounds like we all liked this book. That's,
Yeah, I think so.
That hardly ever happens.
Well, Ness didn't
I'm
vote.
pretty pleased.
Should we give it nugget ratings?
Yeah, let's give it nugs.
I'm definitely a 4 nugget.
Easy
I
for
think
it.
that easy for
Rosie,
it's
how
not
many
a
nuggets
five
do you give it?
nuggets.
What's
Definitely
our total? 5 nuggets?
5
Yeah.
out of 5.
I'm gonna give it 4.5.
Good. Take a bite out of it.
Yeah.
Izzy?
4, a good dollar menu nugget order.
Eris?
Same 4 nuggets. Easy
4
4
nuggets
too.
all round. That's
Yeah, that means I really liked it.
This
Yes.
is amazing. We all actually liked something.
I know, it never happened.
Always assumed that Ness was
So-
gonna like hit us with the. Actually, I give it 2 because no, it sounded like she liked it.
She
I
might
think
not have
she's
given it 4, but she definitely liked it.
Yeah, she seemed to have enjoyed herself.
As
But
my
I feel like,
pick, I
I
feel
realized
like we
we
validated that you guys all liked it.
yeah,
Maybe she rated
Good.
it.
It's rare that we all like it.
and I really do think that it was actually a pretty good pick for a book club because it's nice to kind of switch things up.
Good.
Yeah, it was a nice change. Like, it was a good
Totally.
change of pace from
Like,
our
there were
normal
no-
book club.
I mean, there were no vampires in it, but like I guess
There are no rules. There was no bad sex. With
There was
food.
no Adrian in it. So
Yeah.
Thank God.
didn't quite live up to that 5th star.
dodged.
No. Okay, so I picked by the recommendation of my librarian friend Mossy Lou, who was on our podcast a while back. This book is called Shadow Shaper by Daniel Jose Older, and it's your basic urban fantasy. As far as I know, I have not read it yet. I'm reading as we are. And she says it's all set in New York, in a particular part of New York City. And the special powers and blah blah. So
It's
I
like
don't know
a
that
young
much about
adult-ish.
it, but highly recommended. Woman of color as the lead, which is always awesome. So we'll see how we do, but I'm looking really forward to it. I put the link in the chat there for when our silent producer does the show notes.
I do the show notes. I'll do
Yeah.
that.
Okay. Well, then he gets no credit.
So whatever. What even does he do?
I know, right?
Um,
That's about the
so
show.
that
That's
counts.
about it.
So I don't know how it's going to be. Hopefully, it's not intentionally awful. If it is awful, I take no credit. I don't know.
It looks like it's not awful from the reviews. I mean, it doesn't have a ton, but it's definitely like a 4.
Yeah,
almost
you know
a
what,
4-star
even-
rating.
even when urban fantasy kind of goes wrong, it's still sort of like you can get enough like bah out of it.
Right, it
that
can be entertaining.
you
And it
usually-
looks like it's a YA, so hopefully it won't be too, intensive to read or anything like that.
Probably a 3.85 average on Goodreads. That's not bad at
Light
all.
reading.
Nah.
So.
For Goodreads, that's not bad. So
Is
Yeah.
Goodreads like filled with haters?
At times.
Goodreads, it's either everyone loved it or they hated it.
Yeah. And even sometimes when they love it, you're like, why? Like that Highlander
Because
book.
the hive mind hath decreed.
The Highlander book got 4 stars.
The
Some
Highlander book that you guys use as your like example of
Yes.
this is what we need to not do again.
Yes.
The
So
Great
there you go.
Highlandering of 2015.
So, all right.
I gotta pick
thanks
us a
for
good
being here,
Highlander
guys.
book
Uh-oh.
just to erase
When's
the
our
bad
next?
one. We
I
will
don't know.
determine that in DMs and announced on Twitter.
Yeah, we'll announce it when we're going to be back.
Um,
Cool.
I'll
Sounds
put out a
good.
tweet a week, 2 weeks before. Check the box down here. It's got all the Twitters. It's got links to Can't Talk and Blank Showcast. You can find Amelia and Amelia, Rosie, Ness, and Eris on
Yeah.
Can't Talk. There's podcasts, articles, all that good stuff. Blank Showcast, bunch of podcasts, and stream shit. So, fun times.
Stream
Thank
shit.
you for joining us.
That's about right.
Great.